Why did Spider-Man do so well on his first driving test? He's a great parallel parker. Hey, shh! Welcome back, everyone, to Not Another Needless Sequel, where we talk movies and propose unnecessary prequels, sequels, reboots, and remakes. I am your host, Kane, and today I have with me my wife, Kelsey.
All right, let's do this one last time. I'm married to a man who started a podcast, and for the last 3 months, I've been the one and only co-host.
That is right, and she will be my co-host today as we discuss 2018 Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Well, what is going on with the Spider-Verse?
Well, Wilson Fisk kills Spider-Man, and Miles Morales discovers he is also a Spider-Man, and it's his journey through trying to carry out the real Peter's plans as Fisk has basically started to destroy the multiverse, and he gets help from a bunch of other Spider-Men to accomplish his dimension, Peter Parker's dying wish.
This movie starts off with an introduction to Peter Parker as played by Chris Pine, the Peter Parker of this universe that we open in with. One thing I did want to say is when the movie opens with like the Columbia logo and it's changing dimensions and stuff, that's so cool. Like
It is
the
cool.
opening is so good.
It really is good. I actually liked the entire animation style of this movie. I remember I had you pause it and we were talking about it because I felt like it looked better on our TV.
Yeah.
Then you're like, you saw this in theaters, and I still think it looked better. However, it looked more like a comic book. I don't think I ever noticed that before, and I have watched this movie tons of times.
Yeah, and then that was a big thing for them, trying to make it look like a comic book. But yeah, when you're in theaters, not to mention you and me choose seats that are furthest away from the screen as we could possibly be, but not every theater screen is the best, especially as TVs get better. So, introduction to Peter Parker, he just tells you all the stuff. They do like a funny, they kind of, touch on things from the Spider-Man movies.
Mm-hmm.
He does like the dance and stuff.
That's my favorite part is him dancing in the street.
He says, I have a so-so popsicle, and
Yeah.
I think that's funny. It's all melted, because that's always what it looks like when you get
you
it.
bought one of those at the zoo, and it looked exactly like that. We have
Yeah.
a picture of it.
It's always torn up. After your introduction to him, he says, I'm the one and only Spider-Man, and you're looking at him, or something like that. And when he says you're looking at him, it cuts to Miles, which I think was a cool little foreshadowing moment. And Miles is in his room singing along, and it's so relatable that he doesn't know the words.
Yeah.
He's just like...
I was like, that's what I look trying to sing that exact song.
Yeah, and of course they got away with it because that song is maybe a little more R-rated than they would want for this movie. But by not having him actually know the words,
yeah,
they got rid of all that.
He's trying to hit that note and do
Yeah.
that run when his dad's like, Miles!
Yeah, he's yelling at him to get ready for school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he just dumps all of his clothes into like a
And
suitcase.
I don't know if those were clean or dirty.
They were in like a milk crate too.
Yeah, and
I don't
so
know.
I'm like, are those clean or dirty? Like, did your mom, did she do your laundry, but then milk crates it and is like, put it away yourself? I mean, what's the situation?
In just those few moments where he's with his family in that beginning, you kind of get a feel for what his household is like. His father, Jefferson Davis, is a cop. His mother, Rio Morales, she works at a hospital, and it's a bilingual household as well, and that, very much comes out right there. And he's on his way to school, and I think it was nice seeing that he's like so in touch with his neighborhood. He's got a lot of friends there, and it's kind of also adds to the sadness that he's now going to a new school where he doesn't have this
Friends.
same relationship.
I actually said that because it must suck for him to see all of his friends in the neighborhood and not to be able to go to school with them anymore. Because he's kind of like, in my mind, when you see the class, like his schoolmates later, like they're very pretentious.
Yeah, when he walks into school, because he ends up getting there, his dad takes him because he caught him putting stickers up as he was walking. But when he gets to school, you see him trying to relate to people. He says, like, hey, how's it going? How's your weekend? Some other guy's like, this is embarrassing. We wore the same jacket. And everybody's just, like, giving him the cold shoulder. Like, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
After he is kind of walking around school, then it starts with his classes, and you can see that he's stressing. Like, he's running between classes. You see he's not raising his hand quite as fast as the other people. It focuses in on the teachers as they say words like stressed, or things like that. And finally, he ends up in a class where Gwen Stacy is, and they meet for the first time. That's just a very quick introduction to her character. After that, it shows that his teacher's handing him his test that he got a 0 on. He's trying to get out of the school, but the teacher catches him and says the only way to get a complete 0 on the test is to know every answer.
A true-false test.
Yes, a true-false test.
True. Like, Miles, you dummy.
I know. Come on.
Just get a few wrong.
Yeah, for real. And
a few right. Like, then he would have got like a 20.
Yeah,
you know?
just, measure out your score. You got this. And so his teacher assigns him an essay on Great Expectations based on that conversation that they have. He heads home. He's trying to, or not home, he heads to his dorm room. It's like a boarding school. And he's trying to write it, but he kind of starts dazing off, like looking out the window, and he goes to his Uncle Aaron. So Uncle Aaron and him have a pretty good relationship. And when Miles first visits Uncle Aaron, on the TV that Uncle Aaron has, it's playing the show Community. And the beginning of that episode that was playing shows Donald Glover's character, Troy, getting out of bed wearing Spider-Man pajamas. And this was a reference to an unsuccessful campaign to get Donald Glover a chance to audition for the lead role in The Amazing Spider-Man before, Andrew Garfield had it. And Miles Morales co-creator Brian Michael Bendis said that image of Donald Glover in the Spider-Man pajamas in Community was one of the major inspirations for the creation of the character and the character's design. Not to mention, Donald Glover appears as Aaron Davis in Spider-Man Homecoming, and he also voiced Miles Morales in Disney's Ultimate Spider-Man. So Donald Glover has so many ties to Miles Morales. He's the inspiration. He's played his uncle. He's done the voice. He's all around that. So you see the kind of relationship he has with his uncle. It's a lot different than his parents. His uncle's obviously not strict like that, so they're like friends basically. He's comfortable telling him how school's going. He kind of mentions he's talking to a girl. That's when his uncle tells him about the hey thing, put your hand on the shoulder and go, hey. And it's funny, he keeps trying to repeat it back and he's like doing his voice. Like the last one he does is like, hey.
Yeah. He's got no game.
Yeah. So Miles is going to head home, but I think Uncle Aaron could kind of see that he was, not doing too good. And he wanted to give him a chance to relax. So he offers to take him to put up some of his art. And Aaron knows a spot where it's perfect. It's just a blank canvas. Uncle Aaron takes Miles down there. You get like a little montage of Miles painting his art. And as that's happening, you see the spider that's going to bite him crawling. And the spider, I don't know if it's like a reference to the fact that Miles is going to get camouflage. The spider's changing colors, which I didn't notice till this time around.
Oh, yeah.
As it's jumping on the color paint cans, like the tops, it's changing that color. And
so he is a special radioactive spider.
Yeah, I mean, his, like in the Ultimate universe that he comes from, that spider was made with the same formula that made the Green Goblin. So it is a little different, but eventually that spider bites him, and I think that scene's so funny. I laugh every time because it makes this big, giant, like, epic scene of the spider injecting him. It puts up comic panels showing, like, the venom go inside of him, and then it cuts back to him, and he just very lightly, like, smacks the spider, and it just immediately dies and falls off.
Yeah, I had a couple questions about that scene. Where did Aaron get all of the cans of spray paint and stereo? Because he wasn't carrying a backpack when they went in. And he was the one who handed Miles all of the spray paint. So did he just have it, like, chilling up there already where he was sitting? And also, you always hear about, like, spiders, they don't, like, seek to bite. They're just afraid of you as you are of them. But that spider sought Miles out and was like, this bitch. And, like, bit him. And he crawled all up in his shirt, all of this, all over his neck, and was like, nah, the hand, dude. I want the hand.
It was destiny. And then as for the paint cans, maybe because Aaron was working down there as the Prowler, he left it.
What does he need spray paint for as the Prowler?
Well, he did it because he knew that he would bring Miles there.
Plot hole.
I don't know. So Miles gets bit and he goes home. One thing that they made sure to do is you don't see comic book like panels or like the comic book words above Miles until he's bit. Up until that point, it's normal. And then once he gets bit, that's when all that comic-y stuff starts, which I thought was cool.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So when he gets back to his dorm and he goes to sleep, and it shows like just a time lapse of him sleeping, and his fucking roommate doesn't go to sleep.
No, he stays up all night.
Yeah, and I was like, Jesus, do you not have school too? Like, it's up all night, like nonstop. And also,
He must be on Adderall.
I don't know, but his chair is right there by Miles' bed. Like, go to bed just for the sake of not being weird. You're right in front of your roommate
I
this whole
know.
time.
First off, also how rude. He's just like, nah, I'm not gonna sleep. I'm gonna stay up being loud
Being loud
while
all
my
night.
roommate's trying to sleep.
Ridiculous. So Miles wakes up, and it's the traditional thing that happens when spider people get bit, where like they can tell they're physically different. And he puts on his pants and he says, I think I hit puberty. And you see his roommate like, what the fuck?
And his pants are high waters.
Yes. And then he's walking through, and you can see he's having the comic panels pop up above his head saying what he's thinking. And he's like, why are my thoughts so loud? And he bumps into Gwen Stacy, which you find out later she purposefully made that happen. But he tries to go for the move that his uncle told him about, and he gets his hand stuck in her hair because he doesn't know how to control his powers. That's starting to happen where he doesn't know how to stick or unstick. It's just happening. When that happens, they have to go get Gwen's hair shaved. I mean, that's also when she introduces herself as Gwanda. And she says, like, I'm kidding, it's Wanda. There's no G.
Yeah.
And he's not even listening because the whole time he's in his head, like, why is this so weird? I'm going in slow motion. You know, he's trying to do the move. But she gets her head shaved, which is obviously going to lead to her shaving half her head like she has that look in the comics. When Miles leaves there, he is still freaking out, panicking. He doesn't know what's going on, and that security guard tries to say something about him sneaking out the night before. He goes running. He's sticking to the outside of the building. He's losing his clothes. It's just a mess. He eventually ends up back in his dorm where he sees the comic about Spider-Man. In that comic, it says that Spider-Man's real name is Billy Barker. I guess because in that universe, Spider-Man allowed them to make a comic, but he can't tell them who he is. So, Peter Parker. Billy Barker. Pretty good.
Yeah, no one will put two and two together.
Yeah. So he sees that, and he goes after that to investigate the spider that bit him, because he's like, no way that this is anything. This must be, I'm crazy. He goes down there, touches the spider, and then he starts getting like, I don't know, I guess it was maybe his spider sense, because he starts like being led towards a little further back.
Yeah.
And it's where Spider-Man and Green Goblin are fighting around the collider, and it even, like, it takes a moment. His spider sense is kind of late there in the beginning. You see it several times through the movie where his spider sense is a little behind everyone else's. So he stops, and you hear, like, a whisper say, get out, or watch out, and then, a piece of something comes flying through where he is, and that's when he can see out and see Spider-Man fighting Green Goblin. He gets kind of caught up in the mix, and he falls, and that sets off Spider-Man's spider sense. He swings in, saves Miles, and, their two spider senses kind of bounce off each other. And so Peter realizes they're the same. He says to him, I can help you, I can show you the ropes, but I gotta deal with this first.
Yeah, I do have a question. Why is the Green Goblin so big?
So in the Ultimate Universe, his goblin formula caused him to turn into a full-blown beast. He can actually turn back as well.
To Norman?
Yes, but he switches between the two. He doesn't have the glider or any of that. He just has the big wings. It's kind of crazy, the stuff that goes on with him. He's apparently immortal, and there's been talks about, is Miles actually immortal? And nobody knows that. They don't really...
Because his radioactive spider was made with the same formula that this universe's Green Goblin is?
Yes, and they've never touched on that again in the comics.
Oh, shit!
In fact, I mean, they've done...
You're getting the news here first, folks. Getting the news here.
They've done a series of comic books. They were just one-shots, but it was like the final days of people. Like, they had, like, Venom's last day alive. They did, like, Miles' last day alive. And so he did die. He didn't die of old age, but he was old. So... he's probably not immortal. Anyway.
You never know, everyone. You just don't know.
Yeah. But Green Goblin's ridiculous in the Ultimate Universe. I mean, a lot of the villains are so different. So, during the Collider fight, Spider-Man, makes a comment towards the Goblin about... he says, Norman, how do you feel about head trauma? As he notices a piece of the roof is falling, and it hits Norman in the head. And that pisses him off, because he, kind of loses control. He grabs Spider-Man, puts him in the beam of the Collider. And when Spider-Man is in the beam of the collider, you can actually see as he's like freaking out and the dimension stuff is happening to his face, it shows the other spider people that we're going to meet, Spider-Ham, Spider-Man Noir.
Yeah, it does.
And that was cool. But the collider, I guess it doesn't fully explode or anything because they still say they need to destroy it, but it gets pretty severely damaged. Like the roof caves in and stuff like that.
Yeah, Green Goblin's big ass blew up Fisk's machine. And also, Wilson Fisk is obscenely large for absolutely no reason in this movie.
Yeah, so that's the introduction of Kingpin as well for the movie. And the thing is, I know he is obscenely large,
He's
but
obscenely large. He's bigger than a doorway.
I like when I've seen the people...
For zero reason. He is such a hunchback that he makes the Hunchback of Notre Dame look like absolute garbage.
I mean, so the Kingpin is based on how he looks in a comic book, Daredevil Love and War, that came out in 1986. They didn't just make that for the movie. He looks like that in the comic. He looks ridiculous.
Let me tell you, whoever illustrated that...
Whoa,
Listen, you didn't even let me
Okay,
finish.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Must have been looking at their grandma walking around with a cane, because a bunch of old ladies be having hunchbacks like that, and I don't know where else you would get that idea.
Good God. Well, that comic was done by Frank Miller and Bill Sienkiewicz. I'm not sure how to say it. I apologize. But that's, they're very famous. And I like it. Like, it works for this type of movie.
It for sure works for this type of movie, but he's absolutely ridiculous.
It's funny, like, how big he is. Every time you see him, I mean, half the time it looks
like... You
like...
can't miss him. He takes up half the TV.
Yeah, it looks like it's just like a black mass with a head in the middle a lot of times.
That's what I'm saying. He'd be having a hunchback.
Yeah, so when he shows up like a minute before, but he comes out again once the collider's exploded because Spider-Man has been crushed underneath some of the rubble along with Green Goblin. Green Goblin is seemingly dead, and Miles runs over to Spider-Man. You can see he's pretty badly hurt. He's coughing up blood, and he tells Miles, we need to stick together, and I need you to take this, and you're going to blow up the collider. You just have to get up there and plug it in. And Miles kind of runs off to do that as you hear Kingpin, Prowler, and Tombstone show up. And Kingpin, in a rage because Spider-Man tells him that there's no way to get his family back, which is ultimately his goal of this collider, Kingpin slams down his full strength onto an already weakened Spider-Man, killing him. And Miles goes running. He's not trained to do this, so he couldn't just swing up there and deal with this. He doesn't even have web shooters.
Cue Prowler music.
Yes, I was gonna say, Prowler's theme is terrifying because Kingpin sends Prowler at...
Literally, every single time I hear it, I get jump scared. I'm not kidding. Like, it's so, like, alarming that I'm like, oof.
It's so
Even
good.
though I knew it was coming, I still got jump scared every time I heard it.
Yeah, it's amazing, and they actually made it using elephant noises, and they wanted it to have a sense of sadness with it as well.
It does.
And you can hear that, but it sounds so good. It's one of the best things about the movie.
Yeah, but when Miles finally escapes Prowler and all of this, a song comes on. I don't remember the song, but that was when I thought that the music for this movie is absolutely popping.
Yeah, so Spider-Man's death, when he gets home, his parents are sitting down watching, after they kind of have a back and forth about why he's there, his parents are sitting there watching the news and it announces that Spider-Man's dead. I mean, it's such an emotional scene, and one of the things I liked is you're seeing New York react to it in real time, like all of New York. It's not just them. You see people pulling out their phones. They're on the subway. They're in Times Square. You see it popping up on billboards. Like, everyone in New York is affected by this, and it adds a lot of weight to Spider-Man as well, and the hero he was and what Miles is supposed to fill in for.
Do they do that in the comic?
I mean, it's even more emotional, I guess, in the comics because you have the other heroes getting involved in what's going on. But, I mean, this was, obviously this was sad, and a lot of people knew this was coming based on the content of the movie, but not to mention that this film ultimately is dedicated to Spider-Man's creators, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. Steve Ditko, he died on July 6th of 2018, the year this movie came out, and Stan Lee died on November 12th of 2018, just a month before this movie came out. And so it was a lot.
I remember you being in tears in the theater.
I mean, I'm in tears when I watch it now.
You are.
It doesn't matter.
He cries at movies a lot, but specifically Spider-Man.
Yeah. I mean, it's emotional. I think it's sad that he, even you see Miles go to that crowd of people, and there's so many people wearing Spider-Man masks, and you hear Mary Jane talking about that anyone can be a hero, and it just so happened to be that Peter Parker received the powers, and it's so depressing. It's broken up by a quick joke, and it's one of the funniest jokes jokes in the movie, I think, when Miles says, "They're counting on me." And that stranger leans in and is like, "I don't think you specifically."
It's a metaphor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
he does say that.
I'm constantly, when I watch this movie, I have tears in my eyes and I'm laughing at that scene, and it's just ridiculous. Miles is now trying to be Spider-Man. He has his Spider-Man merch that he's wearing as his costume. He's looking at the comic books, trying to kind of follow in Peter's footsteps. He climbs up to a building to go ahead and jump across, and he's having this big moment, and he turns around and goes back down the stairs immediately to find a smaller building.
First off, he's not winded climbing like 100 flights of stairs.
Well, he's Spider-Man now.
It doesn't matter.
But I thought that scene was funny. It also reminded me of Venom. Remember the first Venom movie when he goes to the top of that building and then he turns around to take an elevator and Venom's like, "Pussy."
Yeah, he does say that, doesn't he? That was funny.
Yeah. Miles, while he's trying to be Spider-Man, he's doing all these jumps and stuff. He falls. And he falls on top of the chip that he had that he was supposed to use to take down the machine, and it breaks. He's super upset about that. He goes to Peter's grave to talk to Peter, I guess, and he says, "I'm sorry, I really wanted to do what you asked, but I broke this, I messed up." And when he does that, a stranger comes behind him and says, "Hey kid," and touches him, and he turns around, freaks out, and pushes him, and his Venom strike goes off and knocks him out, and it turns out it's Peter B. Parker.
Is that what it's called, is a Venom strike, the electricity?
Yes.
Why is it a Venom strike, not an Electro strike?
Because Spider Venom.
Oh. Okay.
So when that happens, we get his introduction, which is a copy of the very beginning of the movie. He says, "All right, let's do this one last time." And he tells his story. He's an older Spider-Man, but his life has gone very differently. His Aunt May is passed away, and he is divorced from Mary Jane because he did not want kids. And he's just a miserable Spider-Man. He doesn't seem to enjoy it. You see him in the bathtub in his suit. There's like a piece of pizza on the bathtub, like next to the toilet. It's just disgusting.
Does that take you back to college?
Basically. He's watching TV. He's like, "Did you know seahorses mate for life? Can you imagine two seahorses seeing each other and making it work?"
Oh my God.
And he says, "All right, so cut to today. I'm doing crunches, getting strong." And he's sitting there eating pizza, like just laying in his bed.
And he has his dad bod for
Yes.
sure. And then he gets sucked through with his dad bod.
And when he's getting sucked through, he webs his mask to grab that. And then he tries to web the pizza. And that's why the pizza hits the ceiling. He's still trying to get the pizza. He could have escaped, but he's sitting there staring at the portal opening, still trying to get his pizza in his mouth. Like...
I mean, it just goes to show he must have some good pizza. But I think when he is in the city and he's standing there, he looks like the Grinch.
So one funny thing about that is when I listened to the commentary on this movie, they said they didn't have dimensions for what his stomach should look like. So basically every time the animators were doing it, they did different like amounts.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's ridiculous, sometimes
Yeah.
it's a little bit.
And then sometimes he looks normal.
Yeah, it's funny. When he comes through the portal, he is flying. He's bouncing off the fucking road, the signs, and I realized for the first time that's why he has on sweatpants, because his pants and boots get torn up to his knee.
Oh.
Like his entire Spider-Man suit gets ruined.
And that's why he has sweatpants and two different shoes
Yeah,
on.
he just
He's
found
got a
some
Van
trash.
on and a Tim on.
Yes, he just had to find clothes. That's why he's dressed like that and looks ridiculous. I never noticed that before. I thought he was just a hobo Spider-Man.
I mean, he is just a hobo Spider-Man. Give him the benefit of the doubt here.
So Miles is there with him after he just zapped him at the grave. The cops show up and Miles has to escape with him. I was dying laughing at how many times he keeps knocking out Peter Parker.
Yeah, I said that the line that best sums up the entire like sequence of this scene is, "It looks like a kid dressed as Spider-Man dragging a homeless corpse."
Yeah.
That's exactly like enough said.
Well, they're attached to the bus and they're going through and they're hitting every single car on the road as they go. He's dragging his face on the street. They hit the
It's like-
gravestone.
It's like every time he comes to, something
Yes.
happens and he's out again.
Eventually he gets out of there and you see that he's brought Peter to his uncle's house and he ties him to a punching bag and he's questioning him because he doesn't understand why he's there, because as far as he knows, Peter Parker's dead. So Peter B. Parker escapes. He just wants to go home. He's telling him, like, "I don't care what you got going on. I just need to get home. Gonna go to the Collider. Deal with that." And Miles is like, "You can't. The Collider's gonna destroy everything." And he tells him he has the the goober, and he realizes the goober's broken, and Peter's like, I have to go steal what your guy stole again to make a new goober. Miles is like, you need to train me how to be Spider-Man. He just doesn't want to. You can see, again, he's given up. He's a very depressed Spider-Man, because the first Spider-Man made a point to say, no matter how many times I get hit, I always get up again. I still love being Spider-Man. And you see that Peter B. Parker does not love being Spider-Man. He's still doing it, but he doesn't like it. He takes Peter B. Parker to a restaurant where he's just absolutely devouring burgers.
Yeah, I said that him eating burgers is actually disgusting. And this is the moment where I felt like they went just a tad overboard with making him overweight and gross. I did say especially with the sweatpants, but I forgot that he lost most of his pants.
Yeah.
So I'll let the sweatpants slide.
Yeah, when he's eating at that burger place, he says, this place closed down in my dimension. I have no idea why. And you can see in the background the health rating that this restaurant has is a C.
Yeah.
So, like, that's why, because it's gross. And they're talking about what they're going to do, what's the plan. They need to go to Alchemex to steal the information to make another goober so they can get the collider shut down. And Miles is like, you can teach me how to swing on the way there. And Peter just laughs at him and then gets on a bus. And they're on the bus and he's like, I'm not going to go swinging after a hearty burger breakfast.
Yeah.
So they finally arrive at Alchemex and they're getting ready. It's a quick scene, but I think it's funny. He's got a cape on, Miles does.
Yeah.
And Peter's like, and it's a no on the cape.
And he's like, really? I thought it looked pretty cool.
Yeah, and he tears it off. He's like, it's disrespectful. So when they're discussing the plan on how they're going to do this when they're outside of the building, Peter's like, I'm going to go to the head scientist. And it shows a picture of him stalking this guy. And Miles interrupts him and says, the lady with the bike is the head scientist. And he says, all right, step 3, I re-examine my personal biases.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
That is funny.
But they get in there, and Spider-Man's very much, again, showing that he's tired of this job. Like, he says, as they're listening to Kingpin and Olivia talk, he's like, this is pretty standard Spider-Man stuff. He's gonna say, you've got 24 hours.
You've got 24 hours.
And then he does say it, yeah. And he's like, all right, well, let's get in there. And they're trying to steal the information, but Olivia comes back, and Miles turns invisible, which is the first time he realizes he can do that. Peter also sees it for the first time, and he's trying to enter the password into the computer to break in while Olivia is examining Peter, which you get the twist reveal that she is Olivia Octavius. And Miles can't figure out what he's supposed to do, I guess, so he just steals the entire computer, and he's running as Doc Ock and Peter are fighting. And when Peter finally catches up to him, I love it. He's like, good news, we don't need the monitor. And he grabs the monitor from Miles and throws it. It's like the whole time Miles is carrying this monitor for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't know how technology works. When they are running away from Doc Ock, they finally enter into, like, the lunchroom where all the employees are. And Peter's like, you're gonna go invisible? This would be a great time. And Miles does it, and he's like, all right, you're not gonna turn invisible? I'm selecting a bagel. And he grabs a bagel.
Yeah.
And when they're running away, the Alchemex employees say, he took a bagel. Like, they call it out.
First off, how was he hungry after his hearty burger breakfast?
I don't know.
Was it all the flirting he tried to do with Doc Ock?
Yeah, probably that. Peter switches with Miles. He says, all right, switch. He gives him the bagel. He takes the computer. And Miles, as they're running out of the building, throws the bagel bag. It hits one of the employees in the head. And when it hits them in the head, above their head, it says bagel. Like, it does like a whole thing about it. And apparently that was just a quick little joke that somebody put in and they loved it, so they kept it.
That's funny.
So they're escaping through the forest. Miles is kind of learning how to swing for the first time. They obviously still get caught by Doc Ock, but that's when Spider-Woman shows up, which I did want to mention this, like, we call her Spider-Gwen, and I'm going to keep calling her that probably throughout the whole thing, but that's, like, not her name ever in the comics. It'd be weird, you know, if she went by Spider-Gwen, and they were like, Gwen Stacy's obviously Spider-Gwen.
Yeah.
No, she goes by Spider-Woman and sometimes Ghost Spider, but I'm going to just keep calling her Spider-Gwen.
Don't get confused, everyone. The lore is unmatched.
I don't want anybody coming at me like, actually, her name is not Spider-Gwen, and maybe you should read a comic book once in a while, because that's how it goes.
They're probably going to come at us with all that because of our sequels.
That's fine. Eat it. So,
Ooh. Doc Ock is a female and we haven't met her in the live action universe.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think she would be a female villain in the current?
Like in Tom Holland's universe?
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good way to do it because I don't think you want to recast as a male because they've already had, I can't think of his name.
Octavius.
Yes, they had him from the original Raimi films come in. And so rather than never use that character again, I think what you can do is, you know, cast it as a female. And that way you still get the benefit of having that as a constant in his universe, but you don't have to feel like you've recast him.
So do you think that Tom Holland's live action is the ultimate Spider-Man universe with Miles existing?
I think they'll do some variation of it. I mean, even this is just a variation on it. Like, this doesn't play out exactly like he did in his introduction to the comics, but I think that definitely the smart move, if Sony wants to add longevity to their franchise, is to give Tom Holland these next 3 movies, and in the finale of these next 3, kill him to introduce Miles. And then you can bring Tom Holland back, but you give him some time to do his own thing. I mean, he's doing his own thing this whole time. Not like this is the only movie he does. But, you know, give him a break and you can still bring him back later and you get a live action Miles, which I think the voice of Miles in this should be it, but that's just me.
You hear that, Sony? You got world-class ideas here. You hit us up, all right?
So Gwen shows up and she has a super cool scene. They start playing like a rock song in the back and she's very confident the way she's moving. You know, she's not Miles, brand new. She's not fucking Peter B. Parker, who's like lazy.
And jaded.
Yeah. She saves them and she whoops Doc Ock's ass and they get away. And when they are escaping on the bus now, after they've gotten away with that, you kind of see the relationship between Miles and Gwen start to take place as, you know, he's kind of saying like, oh, he broke the goober. He's kind of embarrassed about it. You know, don't say anything. And you see that Peter B. Parker's awake in the back, but he's smiling. He's like happy that that's happening.
It does go to Wilson Fisk being mad. But it also shows why Vanessa left him, and Vanessa and their son die in a car accident after she leaves him because it was him beating up Spider-Man, and that's why he hates Spider-Man so much, because he blames Spider-Man for his wife and son leaving him.
The group heads to Aunt May now so that they can see if possibly Peter Parker of this universe had something that they could use to make the goober. Aunt May brings them down into the lair, and it's funny because like Peter B. Parker's like, oh yeah, I have something just like this, and then it's actually like huge. It's this giant like Batcave style thing. You see the Spider-Mobile, like bikes, multiple suits, all that, and that's when we also get the introduction of the other Spider People, as Aunt May says, you guys thought you were the only one to come here. And up in the ceiling you see Spider-Ham, Spider-Man Noir, and Penny Parker, and they all come down. And I like when Spider-Man Noir is up there, one of them says, is he in black and white? And then Peter B. Parker's like, where's that wind coming from? We're in a basement. And Spider-Man Noir's like, the wind goes where I go, or something stupid like that. He's so dramatic about it. Like, Nicolas Cage in that role was perfect. I never would have imagined it, but he's so good in it. Penny Parker, I think she's super cool. I mean, she's got like kind of an anime thing going on, but I really like the robot. I think that was a cool way to have several different variations on Spider-Man without it being like, you know, Iron Spider, Superior Spider-Man, all that. When Peter Porker comes out, they make a joke based on one of John...
Spider-Ham.
Yeah. When Spider-Ham comes out, they make a joke based on one of John Mulaney's stand-up jokes where he talks about how sweaty he was as a kid. And he comes out and he says, my hands are wet because I just washed them. No other reason. And you see like his whole body is wet.
Yeah. Pigs don't sweat though.
Well, John Mulaney did.
Yeah. We also get there, all right, let's do this one last time. And then they introduce all 3 of them.
Yeah, they kind of get a combined one. So they all agree that they're gonna, you know, do this together, and they're like all ready to sacrifice themselves to put the goober into the machine. But Miles says, you know, I'll do it. And they all kind of question him whether or not he's ready. They start going through this little, like, I don't want to say training montage, but they're all like, can you deal with this? Can you deal with this? Can you do this? And you see Peter B. Parker says, like, cool it, guys. Like, he's the only one kind of standing up for him while he's being crowded and harassed.
I actually, Peter B. feeling bad for Miles was kind of sad because he is the only person that believes in him. I did make note of that, and I think he's more like a father figure, like, you know, like, I guess mentor / father figure in the Spider-Man realm. It's really everybody being like kind of hateful to him and doesn't thinking he can do this leads him to go to Uncle Aaron's house.
Yes, and he's there writing Uncle Aaron a note, and you also kind of see that his parents have been trying to call him and they can't get a hold of him because he's having this really emotional moment, and his parents, he doesn't feel that's someone he could confide in about these things. And as he's leaving that note for Uncle Aaron, Prowler comes in, and this is where we get the reveal that Prowler is Uncle Aaron, as Miles hides behind like the TV and he turns invisible so Prowler doesn't see him, but then he takes off his mask and Miles freaks out and tries to run, but he kind of hits a plant on his way out. So Prowler chases him, but Prowler eventually decides, I guess, to follow him instead. And he heads back to Aunt May's. So Kingpin, Prowler, Tombstone, Doc Ock, and Scorpion all show up at Aunt May's.
How many people was that?
Kingpin, Prowler, Doc Ock, Scorpion.
Oh, well. Not the Sinister Six, everyone.
No. I mean, Green Goblin died, so that might have been another member.
Did he really die?
He got crushed by that stuff. He's not in the movie again.
Oh.
So that might have been the fifth. And then actually on one of the boards in Peter Parker's cave, you see Hammerhead, which is another Spider-Man villain. That might have been the sixth if you want to build a Sinister Six. So Miles runs into the house. He's like, "It's my uncle. He tried to kill me." And fucking Spider-Man Noir says, "This is a pretty hardcore backstory." He has just some of the best lines in the movie. Like, I have so many of his lines written down. Another one comes up when all the bad guys show up. Aunt May says, "Can we take this outside before they all fight?" And Spider-Man Noir says, "We don't pick the ballroom, we just dance."
Yeah, he does. And then they start fighting and like her house is being destroyed. And Prowler is about to kill Miles. And Miles takes his mask off.
Yeah, and that's a super emotional scene. You can see that Aaron is having a crisis of faith, basically, when he sees where he is. He's currently holding the throat of his nephew, and he realizes kind of that he's made a mistake. Kingpin says, "What are you waiting for? Kill him." And as Prowler backs off from Miles, Kingpin shoots him from the back. Miles takes Aaron and he runs, ending up swinging over his father, and he follows him there, and he just finds Miles over Aaron as Aaron is saying, "You're the best of us, Miles. I'm sorry I let you down."
Right.
It's so sad.
It is the saddest scene of the movie, and like you get the fact that Aaron is in a hard place because, as we all know, like you can't say no to Wilson Fisk either.
Yeah,
once you're in, you're in.
Yes, and Aaron, of course, is known to be a criminal. I mean, one of the things from the comics that they still kind of touch on here is that Aaron and Jefferson were into some bad stuff when they were younger. That's why Miles' last name is not Davis, it's Morales, because he didn't want to take on that name and kind of be associated with all the stuff that, like, Davis brothers were into. And so you can kind of see where that's gone for, like, obviously Jeff would end up becoming a cop, and you see that Aaron has turned now into a supervillain. He's got a whole suit and everything. Anyway, Aaron is dead, and Jeff initially thinks that it's Spider-Man that killed him, and Jeff goes to see Miles, not knowing, of course, that Miles was there, but Miles has now gone back to his dorm as well. He's angry, and he gets into his dorm, and the Spider people follow him, and they've basically come to tell him he's out. They console him as well. You know, they all kind of give their, for me, it was my Uncle Ben. For me, it was my best friend. All of that. But Peter B. Parker has made the decision that Miles is not going to come.
Well, he's just not ready.
Yes, he tells him he's not ready.
And they're like, "It happens at all times. You've only been Spider-Man for like a couple of days. Like, it's okay." It's like they all understand, but like he is a liability at this point.
And the rest of them actually want him to come. He says that. Miles says, "You have to tell the rest of them I'm ready." And Peter B. Parker says it wasn't their decision. And
he's just trying to protect him again as a fatherly figure and
yeah.
And all of this. And it's really sad, but at this point in the movie, you realize Peter B. is stepping up, being the leader. He's the oldest Spider-Man. He's been doing it the longest, and he's the most experienced.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it makes sense that he would take it on. But he sweet kicks Miles. He's holding him there. He tells him, "If you're ready, then turn invisible right now or Venom strike me." Miles can't do it, and he puts him in a chair, ties him up, takes the goober, and leaves. That's when Jeff shows up to the door. He's trying to talk to Miles. I assume Miles would have talked to him, but the problem was he was webbed up, his mouth was webbed up, so he could not talk, and if he had made enough noise to where his father came in, he would have had to explain that. Can't do that. After his dad kind of gives him a speech about how he believes in him, and he's sorry he's not always what he needs him to be, Miles has a moment where he gains control of the Venom strike, seemingly, and he blasts out of the webs. I forgot to mention that Genki sees them and passes out, his roommate, Genki.
They put him in bed to finally sleep.
Yeah, and And so
that man's been manic. He hasn't slept in days.
yeah, so that's why I think he passed out. But one thing that made me laugh is when Miles blasts out of the chair, there's webs everywhere. And Genki wakes up, he looks around, and he just goes back to sleep. Like, you definitely saw those webs.
He's a tired guy. He's been awake, going hard, going ham in class. And what's funny is, like, at the end, obviously Miles, like, starts going back to school and stuff, but, like, how many days has he missed? Was it just a weekend? Was it, like, a couple days and people are like, it's okay, we don't care?
I do believe it was honestly just, like, a weekend, because...
Yeah, the movie takes place over a very, very short amount of time.
Yeah, but still, you're right. So, Miles leaves, and he goes to Aunt May to get both web shooters for himself and also kind of make his own suit. And we get the leap of faith scene where he's up on that building and you can hear the voiceover of Peter telling him, you'll never know when you're ready. It's just a leap of faith. That's one of the best scenes of the entire movie.
It is.
It's so good. So from there, he's now a little more confident. You can see his swinging gets more confident, and he does head towards the rest of the group, where they are now infiltrating the penthouse where there's like a dinner going on in Spider-Man's honor. And so there's a bunch of waiters dressed up as Spider-Man, and they're like, can't be that easy, can it? And they go down there and they're like, it's that easy, which they don't fit in at all.
No, they don't, because everybody's just dressed like Spider-Man, and none of them look like Spider-Man.
The thing is they only have masks. Everyone else has a waiter outfit on, and they're full-blown different Spider-Man.
Yeah, like, it makes no sense.
They don't fit in at all. But either way, they are able to infiltrate, and they get down to the collider. Doc Ock gets a hold of Peter, and that's when Miles shows up invisible and makes Doc Ock, like, punch yourself. So they have an all-out fight. All the Spider people are fighting. It's a great scene of seeing all that. I want to say that I think Spider-Ham might be the most powerful Spider-Man.
Oh.
Because he can just drop anchors. He can pull a mallet out.
Yeah, hot take, everyone. Spider-Ham is the Spider-Man.
He's secretly the strongest Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's because he was bitten by a radioactive pig, not a radioactive spider.
Yeah. I mean, probably.
It's very cartoony, which I like.
So, they eventually, they do their fights and stuff, and they're getting ready to leave. They're sending everyone out, like, one at a time. I laughed because Spider-Ham, before he leaves, he says, that's all, folks. And Peter B. Parker's like, is he allowed to say that legally?
Yeah.
But before Peter B. Parker leaves, Kingpin comes out yelling at them. They go to try and fight him, but Miles is like, you've got to go. And he does the same move. He sweep kicks Peter B. Parker, holds him off the side of the building above the portal, and drops him.
Not bad, kid.
Yeah, not bad, kid. That's a cool scene.
Yeah. And then it proceeds to Miles and Fisk fight scene.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely insane, but also it's even more insane because Fisk knows that he's literally a child, and he does not care, and is like, I'll kill a kid.
Yeah.
I don't care at all.
He is not pulling back at all.
Yeah.
Miles is able to win using the Venom Strike. He does the move based on Kingpin saying you're never going to see your family again. He gets the inspiration to do what Uncle Aaron said, and he goes, hey, and touches his shoulder and zaps him, and that Venom Strike is supposed to be ridiculous. So after that, he grabs Kingpin with webs, throws him into the collider button, and they're able to shut off the collider. Of course, his dad was there for that fight, kind of saying, get up, Spider-Man. He realizes Spider-Man is not evil. He didn't kill Aaron. He kind of puts together what happened, and that's when, of course, Miles calls his dad from afar and is talking to him, but he kind of gets like, I want to hug my dad, but he can't because he's dressed as Spider-Man. So he just gets off the phone and goes up, and he's like, I'm ready to work together with you, and he hugs him, and Jefferson's like, the fuck is wrong with this Spider-Man? And he's like, I love you.
Yeah, I love you.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's like, oh
yeah, he's so weirded out because just this stranger. So Miles is then kind of giving his, all right, let's do this one last time. I've been Spider-Man for 2 days. As he's doing that, he's walking through or swinging through the city. He's like saying hi to everyone. It parallels that beginning scene where Miles is leaving his apartment, and you see he's like knows everyone in the neighborhood. You see like the opposite of that, sort of, or not opposite, but he's Spider-Man. He's doing the same thing. You see these people are taking him as Spider-Man. That's great. You also get this kind of epilogue where you see Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara. It's just kind of a joke throwaway scene, but he is traveling the multiverse, and he goes to like the 67 animated show, and he's like pointing his finger at him, and he's like, you pointed first, and they're just pointing at each other. But overall, I mean, I think this is currently the best Spider-Man movie movie. I gave it a 5 out of 5.
I
Are
gave
you
it-
afraid to give me your
I
rating?
gave it a 4.8, but you already know that I think Spider-Man No Way Home is better. Like,
I
barely.
understand.
Like, barely. This is definitely top 3, though. Like, I think I like it better than Spider-Man 2. So I think it's the second best. And so that's why it gets a 4. I'll even go to, like, 4.9, but No Way Home gets the 5 for me. So that's
I think
why
what
I gave
this
it this.
movie does for me and why I think it's the best is it very much is embodying that anyone can wear the mask, which was kind of the point of Miles in the first place, is that anyone can be a hero. I mean, the movie even ends with that quote from Stan Lee. I'm gonna paraphrase it here. I don't quite remember. It says something along the lines of, the people who do what is right because it's what needs to be done, those people are truly heroes.
Right. But you also, grew up on comics, and I'm definitely coming up from like an outsider perspective of like I mean, I know what you tell me about comics and we talk about it a lot, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
I feel like you have a different relationship with it than I do.
All right, let's play a game. So, there's 1,000,000 spider people, and I'm going to give you a short, brief description, and you need to pick which one of these spider people on your screen it is.
Just so everyone knows, I've got Spider-Man Noir, Miles Morales, Spider-Ham, Spider-Gwen, and Peter Parker.
Number 1, this spider person's costume is based on their uncle's World War I era airman uniform.
Peter Parker.
No. Spider-Man Noir.
He said he was around in the 30s in the movie and oh, you said World War I, didn't you? Damn, I thought you said World War II. That makes sense. It's because I can't.
Wah, wah.
World
While
War
commonly
I.
referred to as blank, this spider person is also known as the Ghost Spider.
Spider-Gwen, I listened during the podcast.
Good for you. The ability to conduct electricity is unique to this spider
Miles.
person. This spider person is hated by Marvel and forced to be miserable.
Spider-Ham.
No, it's Peter Parker.
Oh,
It's
could you
forced
read
to-
it all?
Yeah. This spider person is hated by Marvel and forced to be miserable through his comic stories.
Oh, yeah, Peter Parker. They always be killing
Maybe you
Aunt
should have
May.
let me
They always be
speak.
killing Aunt May, Ben, both. They be killing Mary. Him and Mary can't be together. He do be going through it.
Premiering in 1983, this spider person was born a spider. Spider-Ham.
Spider-Ham was born a spider?
They tell you that in the thing.
Oh,
He
but
was
he
a
got
spider
bit by a-
bit by a pig.
Wouldn't the pig have just eaten him? That doesn't make sense.
He's a pig that talks. You think it needs to make sense?
Yes.
He was a spider that was bit by a pig.
Interesting.
So,
I didn't do very well.
no, you did not. You didn't even let me finish one of them, and you didn't listen.
Well, I was thinking you said World War II, and I was like, World War II happened in the 40s. What?
Well, you should have just thought about their costume. Look at those costumes and tell me which one is not like the others.
Look at what costumes. There's no costumes on my screen.
Oh my god, just imagine.
Spider-Man Noir gave me a real spirit vibe.
Exactly.
The spirit vibe,
Don't get
which
me
is
started.
not
Don't.
one
The Spirit's
of the best
gonna be
movies of
it.
all time.
It's gonna be a movie we do on the podcast.
It's not a good movie, everyone.
All right, go ahead with your sequel, Miss.
Okay, so mine is a sequel. It's a direct sequel to Spider-Man Into the
Wait.
Spider-Verse.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse releases this week that this will go up on June 1st. So there is already a sequel, but I want to point out that while you and me watched the first trailer, we have not kept up with any of the other trailers, so more than likely our sequels are not influenced by what the movie actually will be.
Anyways, so mine is called Spider-Man Collision of the Spider-Verse. Get
Oh,
it?
That?
Collider.
Yeah.
Okay. So, first scene. Flash to Dr. Olivia Octavius, super injured in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to save herself, she jumps through an alternate dimension to try and heal. Because she's, originally part of, we're calling this the Ultimate Universe, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So she jumps through the portal and goes to an alternate dimension to try and heal. But when she's there, her body is decaying because she's not supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So she's going to die. So she decides to take over that universe's Spider-Man / Peter Parker. And she knew who to seek out because she knew about the multi-universes. And so she becomes the superior spider.
Okay.
Okay. Then pan to Miles. It's gonna give you an update on how he's been doing. He's gonna be okay, dancing down the hallway at school.
Yeah.
Giving you an update on how he's been doing since the last movie. Obviously, this is like some time has passed. I just need that first scene to where you know what happened to Doc Ock. Okay, so say some time has passed. I don't know how much. He's been successfully attending school, and his relationship with his dad is better, and he's saving the city as a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Okay.
Nothing wild has happened. However, Fisk has it out for his father because his father's the cop that put him in jail. Fisk also has plans to get his family back again with use of the Collider, but this time he's going to utilize his worst enemy, Spider-Man. So, alternate dimension, Spider-Man 2099. All right, let's do this one last time. Oscar Isaac gives his whole Spider-Man 2099 spiel, and you get the backstory. However, after the backstory, much like in the last movie with Peter Parker, he's going to be captured by Chameleon, who Fisk has hired to track him down. And so he ultimately captures him, he locks him away, and then disguises himself as Spider-Man 2099 and is going to be pretending to be him. This Spider-Man 2099 is going to try and get all the Spider-Man and women across the multiverse to help him defeating an unknown enemy. And so all of these people come to Miles. They're all like, hey, let's get together. Like, there's an impending doom coming.
Yeah.
Miguel knows all about it. We have to save the world. But Miles is skeptical about this, but nobody believes him because he hasn't been a Spider-Man as long as them. He's just a kid still. I would say he's in high school at this point, but he's still just a kid. So they're all like, you don't know. And he's like, we're all Spider-Man. We should trust one another. So, peek 2, Miles babysitting Mayday Parker. And he doesn't realize she has powers and she can, like, crawl around and stuff. So, she thwips away.
Oh my god.
She just, thwipping around, and she ends up in an alley, and he finally catches up to her and is able to track her down. But you see Spider-Man 2099 change into Chameleon, and he's meeting with other bad guys like Rhino, Green Goblin, whoever you want it to be. And they're talking about, and they're relaying message to Fisk in prison. But remember, Fisk has a lot of people in his pocket, and he's going to be getting out of prison. So Miles tells everyone about Chameleon, and the only person to believe him is Gwen. But Peter B gets mad because he potentially put his baby in danger. He let the baby escape. And so Gwen decides that she's going to help him find the real Spider-Man 2099. So they find the real him, they free him. He tells them he secretly knows how they will defeat Fisk, which is why Fisk decided to have Chameleon go after him in the first place. And then, big final battle. Fisk has remade the Collider, trying to destroy all Spider-Men and women while getting his family back. Big battle. And then in comes Doc Ock as, the superior spider because they've gathered them all. However, she has only come to help because she wants to take over the Collider because Fisk has been taking credit for her idea and claiming it as his own. But the only way for them to win in this fight is for her to give Peter his life back and die, which she does. And so this dimension's like Peter comes back, he helps the team defeat Fisk, and then to get back at Fisk, Spider-Man 2099 traps him in purgatory. And in purgatory, he constantly sees the vision of why his family left him.
Oh my god.
Over and over. And then everybody, stabilizes the universe again, and ta-da!
That's dark. I like it.
You like it?
Yeah.
Did I get stuff comically accurate?
Fuck that. If you're watching this, listening to this, and you're thinking, well, that doesn't work with this comic, and grow up. All right? It's an adaptation. It's not the next comic.
Yeah, and I'm not too well versed in the comics, but anyways.
No, you did great.
Thank you.
So, mine is called Spider-Man Inheritors. This movie would open up right where the previous ended, showing Miles heading through a portal with Gwen to give us a scene of Gwen and Miles spending time together, showing Miles' growth as Spider-Man and discussing some of the crimes and villains he's dealt with lately. After spending the night in Gwen's universe, Miles goes home bringing Gwen for a breakfast from his universe. Upon returning to his universe, he finds the city is in chaos and a mysterious enemy is attacking and screaming, "Bring me the totem." Miles and Gwen attack and are both nearly beaten to death when Morlun, the mysterious enemy, opens his mouth and begins to eat Miles, but not eat him like put him in his mouth. I'm thinking more like the Dementors from Harry Potter.
Who's Morlun?
He's one of Spider-Man's bad guys.
Okay.
So he's like sucking out.
He eats souls. He's a real Shang Tsung.
Well, there's a whole kind of background to that. But before Moreland has gone too far, Miguel O'Hara swings in to extract Miles and Gwen into another reality. Defeated and confused, Miles and Gwen are told Moreland's history by Miguel and informed that when Peter Parker was shoved into the Collider Beam by the Green Goblin, his presence was detected by Moreland and the rest of the Inheritors. Ever since this event, Miguel has been collecting Spider People and hiding out in an area outside of reality known as Madame Web's Parlor. Here, Miles and Gwen would reunite with Spider-Ham, Spider-Man Noir, Peter B. Parker, and Penny Parker, as well as meet several other Spider People, including Spider-Punk, Superior Spider-Man, Captain Universe Spider-Man, etc., just whoever you want to have in there. The Spider People all begin to wonder what the plan is, looking to Miguel as he's the one who's gathered them all. Miguel reveals he has no plans to return to the fight, as Miguel has already given up on the hero life, but was brought here by a cosmic being known as Madame Web and directed to save the Spider People before he could return home. The Spider People protest this and demand that Miguel allow them to fight back. As they surround Miguel and they are overlapping demands are being heard in his head, Miguel has a panic attack, and it's revealed why Miguel gave up on being a hero, which was due to his failure in stopping a terrorist attack which caused an injury to his pregnant girlfriend. After this failure, he believed he would never live up to the original Spider-Man of his universe, and he does not deserve to inherit the mantle of Spider-Man. Miles is eventually able to get through to Miguel, as he also has struggled with the feeling of failure in living up to Peter Parker of his universe, but echoing the leap of faith speech, he is able to convince Miguel that he has an army at his side and they have a united responsibility to be there for their worlds, even if it means they have to defeat Moreland first. So then the Spider People split off into different groups to hunt down Moreland, ultimately defeating him as they learn he has a particular weakness to an ability unique to Miles, the Venom Strike. Moreland is taken by Miguel to be locked away, but in an end credit scene, Moreland laughs as Miguel is putting him away, claiming they haven't done anything, and Miguel has brought a beacon to his home as Moreland's family is on the way, and that would roll into another movie.
So is all of this based on, I mean, I really like it. I feel like a lot of this is like bits and pieces from different comics.
Well, so Moreland is called an inheritor, and there's this whole backstory where the inheritors have been around for centuries, and they eat these things called spider totems. And spider totems are like these spirits that live within basically the Spider People. Like, it's this whole thing where Spider-Man wasn't just accidentally chosen by this spider. It's that he has a spider totem inside of him meant to do all this. So all of that backstory is there, but my thing is, I was trying to make it one of those, like, it can appeal to general audiences where you maybe don't have to know that.
I mean, I really like it. It's really, really good.
Thank you.
I think it's way better than mine.
No, that's not for you to decide.
Marvel, you gotta hit this man up. You email us and we'll get on board, all right?
Email's coming up here. So thank you for making it this far. We hope you enjoyed. If you were able and willing, please share our show with someone, leave us a review, and come back for more next week. If you'd like to vote on whose sequel idea was the best, come by our YouTube channel for the polls, or let us know your idea with a comment, tweet, or you can reach us at needlesssequel@gmail.com. Links, as always, will be wherever you're listening. All right, be easy, everyone. We will see you next week.